to serve what we are expecting to engage and attract foreign direct investment and also our local domestic partners, we have to make changes in our investment law. There is a lot of lessons learned over the last 4 years. Egypt has passed through 2 revolutions, and definitely this had a great impact on the investment climate. So we are aware very much about problems related to the investment climate, ranking of Egypt in doing a business report, etc. And that's why our proposal of amendments now in the investment law is related to how we can create a better investment climate. Major outlines related to those, because they are still under drafting. Amendments related to the one-stop shop. Activate really the one-stop shop. Already we have a one-stop shop, and probably since 2002 we have a one-stop shop and it's being ranked in the doing business report. However, the one-stop shop at GAFI as a general authority for investment is highly actively successful in establishing companies. You can really establish a company in 2 to 3 days. However, to get an operation and to get an operational license for that company, it might take you 2 to 3 years. So it depends from an industry to industry, location to location. There are certain studies showing that probably up to 40 or 48 authorities and approvals to get, and this is really affecting definitely the investment climate. So we need to activate really the one-stop shop also in the operation and getting operational license. To activate it, it has to be embodied into the law itself. It's not through a Prime Minister's decree itself. It has to be part of the law, and definitely the one-stop shop here at GAFI will act as the agent for the investor, and it will be the only entity that will deal with the investor, while the other 48 or 40 plus areas or so, they are still being around. But however, they will act as a back office to GAFI related to those, but with a timeline. With a timeline for approvals, 60 days, 90 days, it's a process. With more electronic payments system, with more networking, IT softwares and updates, I would believe this will facilitate, and GAFI at the end can supersede. If it is not issued, GAFI has the authority, according to the new amendment proposed law, to supersede and issue a license or the case, or refuse the license, depending on the case. So there is a big amendment, hopefully, in this one-stop shop. The second part was related to dispute resolutions. This is coming definitely out of the lessons learned over the past 4 years. Currently, we have probably 3 committees of dispute resolution, one headed by the Minister of Justice, one headed by the Ministry, probably Her Excellency the Minister of International Cooperation, another one at GAFI. So there are different levels that has to be endorsed each time by the Prime Minister and the Cabinet itself. So it's a very long-term process, and sometimes even if the decision is being taken, probably the contracting party or the other administrative party, الجهة الإدارية, will not really implement such a decree, and there is nothing you can enforce unless you have to go to the court at that time by the investor side. So we need to include in the law by law that it has to be followed up, the final decision related to this dispute, and it can be one dispute mechanism. So simplify this process completely. A third amendment is related to equal treatment of all investors. We don't like the idea of having a favorite Arab investor or a favorite domestic investor or a favorite certain European investors. Our laws should be favorably equally to all, with an equal treatment, equal basis to all investors, irrespective of origin. So this is something also has to be embodied in the law. Repatriation of profits, dollar in, dollar out, cash in, cash out. You have the right to get your dividends out of the country, or even if you liquidate to get out of the country. We need to facilitate. This is already definitely in the existing law, and you have to go through the repatriation queues through the central bank. So hopefully we are trying to convince other colleagues at the government. This will give more investor protection and investor guarantees. We need top-class investment laws that really attract investors on an equal basis. There are some ideas about favorite sectors like the renewables. There are some discussions related to that in some of the versions of the early law to favor some of those renewables, reduction of customs, etc. However, custom duties, I believe, is only 2 or 3% on renewable components, so it's not a major issue to be included in the law. In addition to that, changes in the law, in the investment law itself, we need also to make changes in some related laws that can facilitate the investment climate, like in the trade law related to liquidation of companies and insolvency. It's very difficult to liquidate a company and exit out of the market. It can take you years. So hopefully it can be within 60 days, 90 days, if you don't receive whatever requested from the tax authority, from the social insurance, etc., which are those usually authorities that really does not reply on the liquidator. So automatically the company can be liquidated. Issues related to the company's law, you can establish one single, like a sole proprietorship for a public limited companies, etc. We need to facilitate establishing those companies quickly. Definitely also the law related to favor of Egyptian products. And I believe this can attract investment, as Egypt can be a manufacturing hub for probably for renewables or something like that, renewable components, solar or wind, that can be favorably treated in our future program of the feeding-in tariff with the local component, for example. So this is favoring national products. Changing in the labor law, probably this will take a little bit more time because the labor law is a little bit more sophisticated. Timeline related to all those, we are hopefully targeting January, end of Jan, related to those key changes and amendments. And I'm using the word amendment and changes much easier than issuing a new law, because we don't have the parliament or certain steps, which are hopefully we are working on this political roadmap, cornerstone, the civil one, the parliament, by March. And all those investment climate issues, again, with real investment opportunities, hopefully we will present this case of an Egypt's economic reform program on the short term in the future next Egypt Sharm el-Sheikh summit, I believe, on the 13th and 15th of March. So we have such milestone that definitely we have to solve most of all those issues and problems, including key dispute resolution also, which we are trying now to solve on an individual basis until we have the institutional setup for all those activities. This is in brief outline of this, what we are working on in the investment law with the colleagues of the government, and hopefully everything will be in place by end of Jan. And looking for the best. Looking for the best. Thank you very much. One final note, I have my colleague Ibrahim here who will answer any question and answers anyway, and for any additional.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sharif. And yes, I would like to introduce as well Mr. Ibn Mustafa, who is as well here he is, and who will join us then for the question and answer session. And Dr. Sharif, I'm really most grateful for this insight of this comprehensive reform plan by the government for the investment law, and I'm grateful that finally there is a focus on removing these bureaucratic obstacles like this, because I think this is a problem both for the chamber, but as well for Egyptian business people alike who want to do business with foreign partners, and then you bring the foreign partner and you have to say, well, it takes 2 years to get a license, and then we don't have it. And we have at the Chamber an industrial committee headed by who is dealing more or less 100% only with problems, and of course we want to deal with projects. And I think here we are now on the proper course, and I can already tell you that this decision to make Gafi a true non-stop center with the authority to supersede other administrative decisions, that is the right way to do it, because otherwise Gafi has only the option to say, please be nice, couldn't you, nothing is happening. We know that, yeah? But with this, Gafi will definitely be empowered to push forward. And that must. But you can say it.
Yes, we need the support of the investment community actually to pass all those laws and amendments. That's why it's very important for those events here.
So this is going to be the next revolution by the investment community, but this will be a revolution in support of the government. Of course, I know you have other events like this in Dr. Philip. This is very nice. Thank you very much. Ibrahim, maybe you want to join us here. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to call now upon Dr. Mohammed Sobhi, who really is the front runner for renewable energy projects here in Egypt, and one could say almost day by day his role becomes more important, and we are very keen to listen to you, Dr. Mahmoud. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank the Chamber for the invitation, and I'd like to pass the best regards of His Excellency, Minister of Electricity and Renewable Energy, Dr. محمد المقبل. He's not able to attend because he had a cabinet meeting today instead of tomorrow. On the energy issues of Egypt, and specifically on renewable energies, we are facing some critical situation, and I think all of us did feel that over the last 2 or 3 years, where there is certain shortage of fossil energy supply as well as electricity supply, and we need all to work on that, both government and the private sector on that. Definitely a mixture of different energy resources is needed. The renewable energy resources look like the fast-track solution. It will definitely contribute positively to resolving some of the energy shortages, as well as having a very positive impact on the economy, as well as from the environment point of view. There is a number of existing schemes which will be, some of them are announced, like the feed-in tariff. These schemes allow for enhanced investment in the renewable energy generation of electricity specifically. Some of these are existing and already are exercised, like competitive bidding, which is usually done by state entities announcing for large-size projects, either for wind or solar. The second scheme is the direct bilateral agreements between the service providers, publicly owned or privately owned, with end users. And both of these schemes allow for a competitive pricing of the renewable energy commodity itself. The most recent one is the feed-in tariff, one which was announced by the last week of October of this year, and it allows for projects ranging from very small size projects, a few kilowatts, up to 50 megawatt, with different tariffs fixed according to the size of the project as well as the type of the technology. The current feed-in tariff is directed towards wind energy with a target of 2,000 megawatts over the next 2 years, and 2,300 megawatts of solar PV type projects over also the next 2 years. If this target, of this total target of the 4,300 megawatts is met before the 2 years, then these feed-in tariff values will be reassessed and likely will be low. If it's the other way around, if this target is not met, also again the feed-in tariff values will be reassessed and likely they will be higher. But what we are seeing now so far is that the whole thing is organized in different rounds of application. The first one, the deadline for it was on the 26th of November of this year, and the number of applicants exceeded the 175 applicants for consortiums, with a total capacity of 10,300 megawatts for solar projects and 3,600 megawatts of wind projects. Of course, these applications are being assessed currently, and we'll see exactly how much really capacity we are looking at. But definitely, even if like 25% of this qualified, we would have met already our target. The assessment itself is based on three main factors. One of them is the financial capability of the consortium. The second one is the management capability of the consortium. What are the size of projects they can handle or have handled already. And the third one is the technical capabilities and past experience as regard to renewable energies. For the successful applicants, they will be granted a temporary license from the Electricity Regulatory Agency to start doing the recruitment and attracting the suppliers, and of course working on the financing schemes. At the same time, they will be they will acquire land. The land which they can acquire can be provided by the government through government rates or the Industrial Development Authority or the Tourism Development Authority or the New and Renewable Energy Authority. Also, they can, of course, have their own land. The difference between these lands is the land is provided by the government rates or the Industrial Development Authority or the Tourism Development Authority do have their own rules, but in addition to these rules, there is about 12 permits which the investor will need to work on. The land which is provided by NEREA, and I think that would be the most attractive one in this first phase, is these permits are already in existence. NEREA, the New and Renewable Energy Authority, have applied for these permits, and they are already in the possession of NEREA. They include the environment permission, army permission, petroleum sector permission, heritage permission. So all of these 12 permits are already in the possession of NEREA, so they will be provided. Currently, a land demarcation is done for the available land in the southern part of Egypt in Komambo, as well as the east and west of the Nile in the middle part of Egypt. The Komambo one is primarily for solar PV projects. We're speaking about the order of maybe 750 megawatt capacity. For the Middle Egypt one, the east and west areas, we're speaking about more than 2,000 megawatts of mixture of those solar project PVs or wind. And then in the Gulf of Suez area, that's primarily for wind farm projects. There's an available land of almost which can host about almost 500 megawatts of wind projects. They will coexist with the current state-owned wind projects, which are currently about 150 megawatts, and we expect that an additional 400 megawatts will be in operation by the end of summer 2015. The process of the assessment, we're targeting mid-December, this December, for the assessment to be completed, and then the land will be provided for the successful applicants, and they will be able to get their temporary license at the time. For the projects which are less than the 20 megawatt size projects down to the 500 kilowatt project, if they don't have a company, a formal company, they will need to form a company, an investment company, to conduct their operations. After the land is assigned, they will be eligible to any existing measurements which do exist at the New and Renewable Energy Authority, either for solar or wind, and of course also they do have the right to do their micro measurements. We're looking at possibly financial closure for the solar projects, hopefully within 6 months. So that really